Creed 3: Return of the King is a 2023 film directed by Michael B. Jordan with a screenplay by Keenan Coogler and Zach Baling, with Ryan Coogler actually returning to pen the story. The film stars Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, and Johnathon. This is a sequel to Creed 2, of course, and excels in every way. From Jordan's tense, focused direction to the very tight script, we see Adonis Creed retire from boxing after being crowned champ once again. However, there's a new challenger coming from his past. I think Creed 3 is amazing and is the best film in the trilogy. Let's look at why. The film opens with a young Adonis Creed and his older friend, Dame Anderson. The scene is a great tone setter for the rest of the film and sets up the theme of Adonis's character arc, that of assessing and going back to your roots. We see Dame in the boxing ring and we see that he's a very powerful and very aggressive boxer. In this scene he is fighting underground, which obviously harkens back to Victor Drago in the second film, fighting underground, as well as Adonis fighting underground in the start of the first film, which only goes further to one, liken it to Adonis himself from the first, as well as likening Dame to Drago from the second film. So it's comparing Dame to the hero of this film as well as the villain of the last film, which brought our hero so low down. In this scene we notice that Dame is a good boxer. He's very powerful and very strong. This sets up another theme which Adonis later expresses to his daughter, that boxing isn't about the violence, it's about the focus and the control. In the scene we see Dame knock out his opponent, and he and Adonis are seen in the car talking, laughing and getting ready to celebrate this win. And this is when I start to notice the writing of the film. Much like in number 2, it was early doors, you start to get a feel for how this is going to be written in terms of the character moments, and this film is already better than most of what the second film had to offer, in my opinion. Like I mentioned in my video for the sequel, it struggled with its characterization mainly, but this film doesn't have that problem. The scene does well to showcase these two characters' connection and what they meant to each other in the early years. The two then stop off at a shop and Adonis heads to go inside, but he walks past someone in the street, and this someone is called Leon. He's clearly high and much older than Adonis, so we wonder why Adonis even knows him, which sets up a lot of great mystery for this film that pays off really well. Seemingly out of nowhere, Adonis shouts at Leon and starts beating him. We cut away from this then, just leaving the scene and into Adonis's last ever fight. His daughter is older now, he's much older now, and we find out he's getting ready for retirement through the commentary in the boxing match. If he wins the fight, he goes out as champ. Then we go into the fight itself, and immediately the direction is standing out to me. Like I said in my first Creed video, the direction of that film is fantastic, especially with the boxing matches. In the second, the direction is just as good, but more of the same, if you know what I mean. It's not copying the first film, but it's very safe with what the first film set up. Here we see a change in style as we notice the camera zoom in and focus on certain points of Adonis's opponent's body, his weak points specifically, as Adonis locates them all the time and exploits them when he can. This shows Adonis's great tactical prowess and how it's grown since the previous film. Which reminds me, I think this film has the best visual exposition of the three, which is surprising because this is Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. Like I say, this shows Adonis is at his peak, really, at least at his peak of tactical know-how. Adonis then of course wins the fight and he's crowned champion one last time before he leaves the ring. We then cut to modern day. It's been 3 years since his final fight and he's a typical retired guy. The character dynamics in this film are much better than the second. There are a lot of great character moments in that film, but this third film is at its best with its character moments. The best moments come when the characters just give each other a look or a slight tone shift or anything like that. I think this is due to Michael B. Jordan being a great actor himself, so he focuses a lot on these tense moments, you know, the actor heavy stuff, because he knows how to do that and he can direct it clearer. His vision's clearer because he knows what he's aiming at. We see that Adonis is the co-owner of the local gym and one of his fighters is the new sort of world champion, the heavyweight champion. After we've seen him interact with some of the other boxers and give encouragement and things, Adonis leaves the gym only to find some guy leaning against his car. Adonis, goes to him and is like, get off my car. And we meet an older Damien. Dame is here to let Adonis know that he's out of prison now and that they should catch up at some point soon. Adonis thinks for a moment and just invites him for some food now. We find found out that Dame's been in prison this entire time for 18 years, and he and Adonis haven't been in touch since Dame went away. It's here that we find out that Dame's been sending letters to Adonis for years, and Adonis never replied because Mariana's been keeping them from him. This isn't said in the scene, but it's obvious. It's very visually explained. We then learn in a flashback that Dame is dangerous because when we see young Adonis fighting Leon, we now see a new part of that scene, that being Dame pointing a gun. We don't know what he did with that gun until later on. By the end of this scene, Adonis has agreed to help Dame fulfill his goals of boxing by hooking him up with Adonis's gym and getting him some decent training. Adonis's coach is against the idea, but Adonis believes that Dame will prove the coach wrong. However, we see a sparring match between Dame and the champion Felix, and Dame is very brutal. He uses dirty tactics like purposeful use of elbows. That's one of his main tactics in this film. This all shows how brutal Dame is and that he's boxing for the violence, not for the love of the sport. It's a classic good versus evil story here, but neither of the characters are good and evil. They're human and they are presented as such with the strong writing. Dame is literally what Adonis could have been had his life gone any other different way. Then the film moved forward and we see Amora, Adonis and Bianca's daughter, as she's being picked on at school, and Amora gets up and punches the bully in the face. This is where we begin the conflict for Adonis and Bianca, and the theme of Why Do Boxers Box begins to present itself here. Dame goes to Adonis's house so that Dame can meet Adonis's family and have a nice time, catching up and everything. Here, Dame lets it slip that he and Adonis grow up in a group home, something that Bianca never knew. She then invites Dame to a label party, and that's where the really good stuff starts to happen and the film begins to take some shape. At the label party, we see that Victor Drago is here. Adonis leaves Dame to go and talk to Drago and oversee this meeting of Drago and Champ Felix. I also really like that Adonis just talks to Drago and they're like good with each other. You can tell the years have passed on. You can tell they've let go of a lot of stuff, and we can see that Adonis has the ability to let go, which is great. Just character exposition to show that he can get over this later on in the film. It just further pushes that theme. Felix and Drago are ready to fight. They look pretty excited for this matchup. However, Victor is attacked and he's very injured. The companies want to pull out the fight date, but Adonis and his team are trying to stop this, of course. They need another fighter for Felix to fight, and very soon. The two options are either injured or recovering from their latest fights. The only option really in Adonis's mind is Dame. Again, Adonis's coach is very against this, but Adonis manages to convince Felix and his mother to go ahead with this fight. Dame takes Drago's place, quite literally. He now has his chance to become champion. If he beats Felix, he will take the championship. Bearing in mind, this is his first fight, so it's kind of insane, but the film addresses this through the match commentary, so it's kind of fine. Don't get me wrong, it is definitely never going to happen ever in real life, but considering all the other quality of the film, this is something you just have to let slide. Damien is first walking out to the ring. He walks out alone to tepid music and large amounts of booze. Felix then comes out in a theatrical show of sound, colour and cultural showings, and the crowd loves it. Earlier in the film, when we were introduced to Felix, we saw that he was also a brutal fighter, using too much power, not being focused enough, which is why nobody wanted to spar with him in the gym, which is why Dame got his chance to do so in the first place. So when the fight begins, we don't need anybody to tell us how long Dame's been boxing for, because you see it. He's comfortable in the ring, he lands his punches well, and his blocking technique is interesting. He's a good fighter and he has tactics, but he's also very brutal and aggressive and violent. Dame's a bit of an animal, more so than Drago was, because Drago was still boxing. A lot of the time Dame is just fighting. Felix is trying to focus on the tactics, but Dame is pushing him. Felix tries to go harder and harder, but Dame keeps pushing until Felix is knocked out, needing to go to the hospital. And Dame is top of the world, but Adonis is looking at losing everything once again. After all this, Adonis goes home to his mum's after she said she needs to talk to him. He finds her with these box full of letters from Dame that Mary's been keeping away from Adonis this whole entire time. He lashes out at her, telling her none of this would have happened without her. And, she agrees. She gives Adonis a picture of Dame in prison with a man, and you might recognize this man as the one who attacked Drago earlier on in the film. This scene does really well to begin to tie the themes together and fully realize Adonis's and Dame's motivations. However, it becomes more and more clear that Mary may not see the end of the film. Adonis realizes that Dame has been playing him, and that all of this has been a part of Dame's plan. Adonis goes to Dame and tries to talk talk to him about all of this. However, Dame is aggressive and they argue, Dame actually being the first to hit out. And you know, this surprised me. I didn't expect to see fists being thrown like this outside of the ring in Creed films because we haven't seen this happen before. So it was nice. It shows how personal these stakes are for these people. It also goes further to show Dame's out of control behavior, and they argue even more with Adonis's ego really being tested here. Adonis goes home and is a mess. His eyes cut and he's in a right state. Bianca comes to him and tries to get him out of what's going on, but he lashes out. He's swearing and shouting and screaming at her, but then he stops, looks to his side, and he sees that Amora is there and she's been watching things this whole time. Bianca says to him he needs to sort himself out because his daughter can't see him like this. Then when things seemingly can't get worse for Adonis, his mother has another stroke and it looks like the end. The scene with Adonis and Marianne is one of the most emotional scenes in the entire trilogy. We see Adonis apprehensive as he approaches his mother, as she lays in the bed drained and only getting weaker. The two share a nice moment. Adonis tries to apologize for the harsh things that he said to her earlier on, but she stops him. There's no need. Then potentially one of the most gut-wrenching things happen. Mary, in her dying and confused state, confuses Adonis for Apollo, and she cries, telling Apollo how much it hurt when he left her, when he died. Throughout this entire trilogy, Marianne has been Adonis's physical representation of his past trauma, specifically towards his father, and now she dies. Adonis has to let go, and he says he doesn't know what to do. Adonis and his family attend his mother's funeral, and the film lets the scenes be quiet. It lets it take its time. At the end of the funeral, we see Adonis and Bianca finally talk. He admits how hard it is for him to talk about what happened to him and Dame when the two were kids, but he does hear. He tells her how he was abused and how angry it made him for a very long time. And when Dame came back, the past and trauma came back with him. Bianca explains how hard it is for her to be open too, and now there's so much going on that she needs to work on, but she is working on it. She's doing the work. Adonis has been trying to avoid it, but there's only one thing he can do now to solve all these issues: by getting in the ring. Next, we see an amazing montage sequence. Once again, the best of the three films for me. In it, we see Adonis as he starts to get back into the boxing world. He's learning about his previous injuries and now they're going to affect him here. He has had a fractured hand, ruptured kidneys, cracked ribs, but he keeps going. On the other side, we see Dame is getting ready, and once again in his sparring sessions, he's an animal, but he's going more out of control now than he was at the start of the film. Adonis then starts sparring with Victor Drago, again showing that friendship between the two, which I actually quite really like. This is where we get the best part of the film, potentially the best part of the entire trilogy, as we see Adonis sparring with Drago, and it's rough sessions. Adonis could not get his groove and Drago beats him, but even Drago don't want to do this. He's trying to tell the coaches like he's not ready, and we see Adonis is knocked down by Drago. The weight of the entire franchise, the weight of his past, of his trauma, of all the expectations, all crippling him, trying to get him to the ground. Just as we hear Adonis interlude by J. Cole play, we see the clip from Creed 2 wherein Adonis has been knocked out, but the past Adonis woke up in this flashback. He got up and he won that fight. Adonis then remembers something very simple. He's done this before. It's not in his nature to stay down and accept failure. He gets to his feet and he continues to spar with Victor Drago. I really like this moment for many reasons. One of them being Adonis doesn't get up and fight Drago and win. He gets up to spar, to continue training, to continue the fight. This wasn't the big moment in the fight where he's down and gonna lose. This is Adonis almost giving up on the journey, where he could lose even before he properly tries, and that would be the biggest failure. Adonis Creed and Dame Anderson are now finally in the ring together, ready for the most tactical battle you'll ever see in the entire trilogy. The fight is a little bit slow, mainly on Adonis' side. He's holding back somewhat, getting a feel for the fight again. He's trying to be a bit too tactical here and now going for it. As Adonis' coach says, Dame is an animal and Adonis needs to be on the attack. They begin to get more into it, but Adonis is the first to bleed. I feel that this is important to note because we rarely see Dame bleed, and he's always cutting up people in the film, and usually it has worked in the past, as we've seen. Like the midpoint fight, the first to bleed was Felix and he went out. Adonis is reminded of who he is and the two get into another round. This whole sequence is amazing. As the two champions battle, the crowd vanishes around them and it's just these two fighters in the ring alone. They're fighting tactically but with so much power, and all the history with the props start to come back at them. That history of Dames is coming back. The potential history of Adonis is coming back. Both of their pasts now clashing together. Here Adonis shows why his philosophy on boxing has worked for him for so long. It's not about the violence, it's about the focus and the control, and these silent moments in the ring show that perfectly. The direction and camera work for this scene is next to perfect too. We see close-ups of Adonis scanning Dame's weak points like we did in the first fight of the film, and the two enter the real world again, and they've reached the peak of this third act. Everything is at its most tense, yet most focused. The two are battling all over the ring, both men angry and aggressive. Adonis is told to forget the past, to let go of their friendship and their rivalry. The coach telling Adonis to walk into what is him telling Adonis to face facts, to stop holding back and beat his opponent like he has done so many times before. I really like the moment in the final round where Dame is trying to play with Adonis and he baits Adonis out by showcasing a few non-typical tactics, and Adonis actually falls for it and he's annihilated in the stomach. Adonis is down and he's really feeling this hit. We aren't sure if he can get back up, and the count gets all the way to 9. Adonis really pushing it. Bianca tells him to get up and he gets up and he's ready. Dame's coming at him hard though, and Adonis has to be strong and ready. At the end of the match, we see Adonis focus showcase once again, like we did at the start of the film. We see a close-up of Adonis's eyes as he looks for an open shot at Dame's block, and he does, punching right through it, and Dame is knocked out. Adonis is king once again. Dame is beaten and he sits in the changing room with his coaches, but Adonis comes looking for him and the coaches leave. What follows is a much needed scene. The two titans talk it out and they forgive each other. In a great moment, the two acknowledge that everything that happened to them was neither of their faults. Both of them were abused as children and they should have stayed as a team. They agree that they'll see each other again, and Adonis leaves to go to his family. And the final scene is a nice one, a very much expected one for a finale in trilogy, potentially a cliche one, but you can't get around it. You need these tender family scenes, especially in a trilogy like this that has spent so much time with them, and it just depends on how you react to those type of scenes. Here I think the writing is good enough to not make me want to stop watching or to make me cringe away. Everything is wrapped up and the prospect of Amara becoming a boxer like her father is very much leaned into, and we're out. Film is over. Perfect bookend to the great trilogy. Creed 3 for me is the strongest entry in the trilogy. The way it deals with the themes of dark past, of continuing your own legacy, of fighting for yourself. I have never seen a film like it in the way of its emotional arc for all the characters and the way that it explores all these ideas. To wrap up, this is my favourite film in the trilogy. It's such a surprise that this is Michael B. Jordan's first directing effort because it's done so well. The writing in itself is fantastic too, really focuses heavily on the characters' journeys, and that's why this whole thing works so well for me. But yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for your time, your effort and your ears, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.